Hello, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is a pre-recorded session, which is kind of strange for me, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself and then just launch right in. The name of this session is Tips for New Google Workspace Teachers, and it's going to focus on how to infuse the 4C's with Google Workspace. And this is the 2021 North Carolina Beginning Teacher Summit, Growing to Greatness, Policies, Practice, and Impact. And there is a bit.ly link right here, which I'm going to have on a couple of different screens. If you are watching this recording, you'll want to grab that link so that you will have access to the presentation and all of the resources that are in the presentation. It is bit.ly/NC_BET_21. I'm going to move right along. Okay, this is a little bit about me. My name is Vera Cabero, and I am the Digital Teaching and Learning Consultant for the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and I am the consultant for the Western region, which is Region 8. I'm also a veteran educator. I worked, first of all, 3 years as an elementary school assistant and writing coach. Then I was 14 years in a middle school as a teacher in English language arts and social studies. Did grades 6th, 7th, and 8th all. I moved into a digital teaching and learning consultant, ITF position, did that for several years, and then I moved into the Department of Public Instruction about a year ago. I also have been a Google certified trainer for about 7 years now. In November will be 7 years. So that's a little bit about me. There's that link again if you need that link, bit.ly/NC_BET_21. And of course, this is pre-recorded, so if you need to pause and get that link put in, you certainly may do that, but I'm going to move along. Okay, today's session objectives, there are going to be several things that we're going to cover. And honestly, in an hour, we're going to just glaze the surface of these things, and I'm going to be moving quickly. But again, it is pre-recorded, so one of the benefits of that is that you can pause it and rewatch it and kind of take time to work along with me and whatever you need to do. But I'm going to start with just giving an overview of Google Workspace for Education for those of you who may be new to it, or new to it in the role of a teacher. I'm sure most of you have been familiar with it in the role of a student, but it will be different, of course, as a teacher. I'm also going to give you my top 5 tips for Google Workspace teachers. And then I'm going to do some demonstrations on how to use the Workspace for Education tools. And I'm going to give you some resources to take to use later, because there's no way we can get through everything in the hour that we have. Okay, so to begin with, going over what Workspace for Education offers. It has changed a lot over the last couple of years. If you were familiar with it a couple of years ago, it was pretty much free. All of it was free for all public schools, all schools and all nonprofits. And since then, they have changed their business model. They do have still the free version, which is very well worth having, but they have some upgraded versions as well. And so in today's presentation, I will be kind of differentiating between those versions. But just recently, they've introduced these upper levels of service. So the free version now is called Workspace for Education Fundamentals. And that is still free for all qualifying institutions, which is all public schools, all private schools, all nonprofits. And that free suite of tools includes all of these tools that you may be familiar with: the Google Drive tools, Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Forms, Classroom, Assignments, Sites, all of that is included. Now, the Google Workspace for Education Standard Edition, from the role of a teacher, you really would not see any difference in. That is an upgrade that is mainly just to enhance security. And so the only person that would really notice that would be your Google admin, the person in your district that runs the security features. But there is another upgrade called the Teaching and Learning upgrade that does really help out the teacher role, because that upgrade enhances a lot of the teacher tools. It gives you access to some of the upgraded features in Google Meet, for example, and then Google Meet is really the one that has the most upgraded features from the teacher perspective, but Google Classroom also has a couple of upgrades, one being the originality reports that makes them unlimited, and then also they're launching a new thing where you'll be able to use add-ons in Google Classroom. That's coming out very soon, and that's included in the teaching and learning upgrade. And then the Google Workplace for Education Plus, that one would include all of the below. So if you have Workplace for Education Plus, you have everything. And so I'll kind of differentiate the different things that I'm talking about. If I'm talking about something that is only included in one of these upper levels. The good thing is that most of the tools are included at all levels except for in Google Meet. Okay, so as I've said, I'll be talking about all of those. This link does have information about the different levels, so I am going to go into it just briefly. And if you have this slide in front of you, you can always refer to that. That whole section right there is linked to this. But this compares the different education versions. And so if you just kind of scroll down through there, there are the 4 versions I just showed you. This shows the pricing structure as well. They're $3, $4, or $5 per student per year. Except for the teaching and learning one, and that's per license per month. And that one is licensed by teacher rather than student. Okay, so as you can see, the tools are broken down, and I'm not going to read this to you piece by piece because it's just way too much. But as you can see, there's really no difference in the docs or the sheets or the slides or the forms or the classroom, except for when you get into the originality reports for the fundamentals and the standard. You are limited to 5 originality reports per class, and I'll talk to you about what those are toward the end of the presentation. And then if you get the teaching and learning upgrade or the Education Plus, those are unlimited. Roster syncing is only available for Education Plus, and that is where it will sync with your SIS system and kind of create your classes for you. Assignments is free for all levels. If you're a Google Classroom teacher, you wouldn't use that, but that would be like for a Canvas teacher. Google Classroom kind of works with Canvas to incorporate the Google tools in a Canvas course. And then there's originality reports again. It's in there twice for some reason. Sites is the same on all levels. Document approvals, there is an enhanced level at the plus level that has a kind of a security feature there. Gmail's the same, calendar's the same. Google Meet, as I said, is the one that has the most difference, and so we will kind of talk about that a little bit. The closed captioning is the same at all levels. The number of participants is different, but for a teacher, that really is not going to affect you much. Hopefully, you'll never have more than 100 kids in a class, but there is a difference there. As you'll see, it jumps from 100 to 250. And the in-domain live streaming is not available on these lower levels. It is available in the upper levels. And the recordings saved to drive, that is on all levels. There is a difference in how long it's saved. On the lower levels, it's only saved for 30 days. On the upper levels, it's saved more indefinitely. So the moderation controls are at all levels. Those are things like controlling who can chat, who cannot chat, who can enter your meeting, ending the meeting for everybody, things like that. Those are available at all levels. Hand raising is available everywhere. The digital whiteboard integration with Jamboard is a free feature. So, across the board, custom backgrounds is. Now, the interactive features here are not available on the free version. So that's the one that most teachers are going to miss. The polling and Q&A features, the breakout rooms, attendance tracking, noise cancellation, all of those are not available in the free version. They are only available at the teaching and learning upgrade and up. Okay, and the others are really not relevant so much to a teacher, so I'm not going to devote any more time to that, but if you need to, you can always reference that by going to that link right there. Okay, so we're going to jump right into my top 5 tips, and I'm going to talk about each one of these in some depth, and then I'll kind of revisit them as I go through the presentation throughout the presentation. So number 1, if you are a Google Workspace teacher, and perhaps you're used to using Microsoft tools or something like that, you just need to go ahead and make a hard dive right into Google Drive, because if not, you're going to be just straddling this uncomfortable place where you're working in your Microsoft area, but your students are not able to do that if they're on Chromebooks or whatever. And so you've got files in Microsoft that your students can't access, and you're going to constantly be kind of straddling those two worlds. And so if you're teaching in a district that is a Google Drive district, a Google Workspace for Education district, you need to just dive right in, learn your Google Drive. It's not hard, but it will make your life so much more easy as a teacher, and it will also make you a much more effective teacher. And we're talking about incorporating those 4C's, the collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. And using the Google Workspace tools for education makes that much easier because it's just built for that. It's built for collaboration, and it's built for working together with students and communicating with them, and all of that stuff is built into it. But if you're constantly working in both worlds, it makes it much more difficult and confusing for you as a teacher. And so some things I want to point out about your Google Drive: it is like a hard drive in the cloud. So it can store all of your Microsoft files that you may already have, and then you can open those files in their Google equivalent. So you can open your Microsoft Docs in Google Docs. You can open your Microsoft Excel sheets in Google Sheets, and so forth. And it will store those Microsoft versions as well. And so think of it more as a hard drive in the cloud than just a place to store your Google files, because it will store any kind of file. Of course, the Google files are the ones that are more collaborative, and hopefully you'll start kind of transitioning more to those files as you move into that environment. But it will hold any of those things. It also does allow offline access if your admin allows it. It is something that has to be allowed by your Google admin, but I can't imagine anybody not allowing it, especially after COVID and what we went through last year. And so even if your students lack connectivity, and I promise you, no matter where you teach, you will have some students that don't have at least adequate connectivity or consistent connectivity. And so there are ways in your Google Drive to set up offline editing so that students can, and you can, be able to get in there and edit those files, and then they will, when you get back online, they'll update and your changes will be saved. So that's a great feature. Also, I do want to point out, if you're coming back to Google Drive after a while, there's been an unhappy change recently in that there is no longer an unlimited free storage. Now, it has been for many, many years that education institutions had unlimited storage in Google Drive, and so there's been, oh, put it all in there, it doesn't matter. Well, now they're introducing, starting in June, there is going to be a storage cap on education institutions. It is a really large cap. For regular size institution, it's going to be 100 terabytes per domain. So like your whole district would have 100 terabytes of shared space. But because there is a cap, I'm sure that your tech directors and people in your district are going to be wanting a little more thorough about people cleaning up that space and not just storing everything in there, and storing video files and image files and music files and things that take up a lot of storage. So I just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. We can no longer think of it as unlimited forever, because it is not anymore. It is no longer unlimited forever. Okay, and that does start this June 2021. Okay, so another really important thing about Google Drive is, again, if you're a Google Workspace teacher, it integrates seamlessly with all of the other Google Workspace tools. And so anything you have in your Drive, you can access it and share it from your classroom, your calendar, your Google Sites, your Gmail, any of those other tools. And so they all work together seamlessly, chat, any of those things. And so that makes it really user-friendly for teachers in the domains that use it. And my favorite, whoops, I'm sorry, I went too fast. One of my favorite things is there is no more need for multiple copies. All the Google files are collaborative, and they update automatically. They save your previous versions. And so please, 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 Don't make multiple copies of things anymore. That's one thing that drives me crazy, especially if you're collaborating with other people on a document and you make other copies and then the document changes. You're no longer going to have that most current copy. So there's no need to do that anymore. That same copy can be updated endlessly and indefinitely by a multitude of people. They do have collaboration features built in as well. So there are ways to comment. You can mention people in the comments by using the @ symbol in front of their email address, and you can assign tasks to them. So you can mention someone, assign a task to them, then they can check off the task as completed. So it's a seamless way to kind of work together with a team to accomplish a task or work together on things. And that is in all of the tools across the board. You can do that in any of those tools. And it includes all of the following things. So when we talk about Drive, we're talking about the storage space, which can have PDFs, docs, or like Microsoft files, videos, images, all of that, but it can also have all of these Drive files in it. And so it includes Google Docs, slides. This is Google Sites, Jamboard, Jams is what they're called. It can include, I'm sorry, my computer does this crazy thing where it just zooms in sporadically. Google Sheets, Google Forms, and then Google Drawings. So all of those things live within your Google Drive. And we're going to talk about all of them a little, but we're going to talk about Docs, Slides, and Jamboard a lot. Okay, so my number 2 tip for the Google Classroom teacher, if you're new to the classroom and you know you're going to be in a Google Classroom district, before day 1, before school starts, take time to learn Google Classroom, start using it from day 1, teach your students to use it, reteach it, reinforce it, and repeat. If you will make it your daily practice, make it your mission control, make it your hub, the place where everything from your classroom flows, you will make your life so much easier. And I'm just checking my time real quickly to see where I'm at. Don't have, well, it doesn't keep up with my time, so I thought it, oh well, didn't keep up with my time, so I'm going to have to watch that closely. Okay, so back to this. So just make sure that you are making it your classroom hub and do everything in there, and use it for all of your communication, your assignments, your grading, your feedback, your group work, etc. And I put that in there a second time actually on accident, but it's worth repeating anyway. And so I want to point this out again, okay? And I'm not saying it that you need to be mean to your students, but don't allow them to submit classwork other ways, because they will do what's easier for them. And if they just don't want to fool with classwork and they want to share it with you in Drive and you accept it, then that's what they will do. And if you will accept it emailed, that's what they will do. And as a teacher, you'll be setting yourself up for a very difficult time keeping up with the classwork. If you have it all submitted in Classroom, there's a very seamless grading process. It makes it super easy for you to keep up with. And you really need to kind of think about that as you're setting it up. And so be kind about it, but just reinforce that. Make sure that you're only accepting it through through your Google Classroom, because one of the great things about technology is it can kind of automate some of those practices and allow you to devote the time that you do have to doing things that really matter, like giving good feedback, which I'll talk about, and make sure you're building relationships. So you don't want to be spending all your time trying to chase down 3 or 4 assignments that got emailed to you and 4 or 5 that got shared with you in Drive, and then the rest of them that are in Classroom. You want to kind of make sure that your students do follow the processes, and that will benefit them in the future as well, because I promise when they go to college, the teachers are not going to work that way. They're not going to just accept assignments just whichever way people want to turn them in. And so they need to learn to work in this online environment anyway. Okay, so I'll talk more about that when we get to kind of going through those processes. But you can add drive templates to your assignments, and I recommend you do that whenever possible, even if that template is just a blank document. And there are benefits to that. The benefit is, first of all, if you add the template to the classroom assignment, you own that document. And that means that whenever the student opens it, they have rights to edit it, but they don't have ownership of it. So they can't delete it, for example. And then when they turn it in, they don't have editing rights on it anymore. So, and also it has a naming convention. It will name it, whatever you name the assignment, it'll put their name in the front of it. I know when I was teaching 8th grade, my boys in particular were notorious for not naming their assignments. So every time I assigned something, this was before Google Classroom, I would get, 8 or 9 assignments called untitled. This kind of takes care of that. It takes care of that naming convention. So there are lots of benefits to that. So I do recommend doing that whenever possible, and I'll kind of go through that process. Also, I do recommend using the Google Classroom calendar integration. I will show you that. When you make assignments and you give them a due date, it'll put them on your classroom Google Calendar. And I really think it would be a benefit to your students to teach them that, because I know as a professional, I live and die by my calendar, and I really think that it would help our students in the long run, as students and as professionals, to learn to work within the confines of a calendar and to depend on it. And so I think the sooner they can learn that, the better off they would be. And there are some tools that have been added recently that I really want to talk about. Well, first of all, the gradebook's not new, but it's improved recently, and you can use that to really streamline your process. So I'll talk about that a little bit. But last year, the rubric and the originality reports were added, and those can really help first of all, they help improve the feedback process and the quality of feedback, but they also really help to improve your process and make it more effective for your students. And then also integrates with all the Drive tools. And so you can do pretty much any of these things within your Google Classroom. And so you just want to integrate it all seamlessly in there together. And not just these tools, by the way. While I'm here, you can also share a website. You can share a Google Drive video. You can share a map. You can share, any kind of a resource. You can add a PDF. You can add lots of things to it. Okay, and my tip number 3, I'm going to give you 2 tips on feedback, because as a new teacher, of course, communication is one of the 4 C's, but communicating with your students, one of the main ways that you communicate with your students is by giving them feedback. And it is also one of the most profound and impactful things that you can do for your students is the quality of feedback that you give them. And so I want to give you a couple of thoughts, a couple of takeaways. And this one I think is very profound. And I did link the podcast that it came from. It's called The Cult of Pedagogy. If you haven't heard of that, it's a great resource, and I do recommend as a new teacher that you link into a few of these really good resources. I'll give you some more toward the end. This is a good one. The Cult of Pedagogy is a great website that has a great podcast as well. But this one is just the concept of feed forward. And it's basically providing effective feedback while the work is still taking place, while improvements can still be made, rather than just passing judgment when it's too late to change the outcome. And so thinking of feedback as a physical rather than an autopsy, because when you give students a grade and they don't have the opportunity to change it anymore, how effective is that? It's just not. If it's over, it's done with. It's kind of like the EOG. Of course, that's important. It has its place, but from a student's perspective, that's not very effective, because they can't go back and they can't fix it. They can't learn from it. They can't grow from it. And so it's really important as a teacher that you try to make opportunities. And I know every single assignment, this can't happen. But when you're doing long-term assignments, research projects, that kind of thing, consider going through along the way. And that's a great thing that Google Drive and the Google Tools Classroom is good for, is you can monitor those assignments in progress, and you can give them feedback while they're working through these things so that they can make those changes and make those improvements while they're working through it, not just afterwards when it's too late to change anything. Okay, so the next one, which also has to do with feedback, when you are given feedback, this is just a little acronym that I found, and the source for it is down here as well. But it's called FAST feedback, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the speed, although timely is the speed, but it's just an acronym for fair, accurate, specific, and timely. And so first of all, we want to make sure it's fair. That kind of goes without being said, but you need to make sure they know the rules ahead of time. Make sure you stick to the rules. Make sure it's accurate. And this is a big issue with me, is sometimes people are grading compliance, not the assignment. And so if you're marking 15 points off because they didn't put their name here and they put it here instead, that's not on the standard course of study, I promise you, in any subject, that students put their name in the right place on the paper. So things like that are a detriment. They're not accurate. So you're not grading the standard course of study when you're doing that. Specific, make sure it's actionable. It tells students how to improve. Timely, make sure it is soon enough that it can change the outcome. So think about that feed forward approach. It's a great thing about technology. In the old days, when I was in school, we did an assignment, we moved on to something else. We were working on something else for a week or so, and then we got the results back from that assignment, and that was already ancient history. We never went back and did anything with it. Now, with modern technology, you can give feedback even instantaneously with a lot of the tools. And then while they're still working through the process, and they can still make improvements. So I really encourage you to work through some of those things and find processes to give timely feedback. And then number 5, infuse the 4C's daily, and emphasis here on the word infuse, so that they need to be part of your lessons every day. So every day there needs to be some way that students are communicating with each other, some way that they're collaborating, even if it's just for a few minutes, some way that they're allowed to express their creativity and in what they're expressing. So don't always just give them canned assignments with a predictable outcome. Give them a something that they need to explore, and then let them determine how they express it to you, for example. And then there always needs to be some critical thinking. Students need to be able to think through problems and solve problems, not just always doing this rote memorization type skills. And Google Drive Google Workspace is great for infusing the 4C's. And hopefully before we run out of time, I'll be able to hit on all of those a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move along. I am in Google Meet. And so in Google Meet, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate some of this because I'm all by my lonesome right here, and this is not a live session, but I will just talk to you briefly. I also don't want to spend too much time on it because we all hope that we never have to teach like we did last year, which is with students learning from home, but we do need to be prepared for that just in case. And so if you do have to do any online synchronous instruction, and most schools will be doing at least that for bad weather days and that kind of thing, these are the tools that Google Meet offers, and it breaks it down by the free and the plus. Okay, so if you're fortunate enough to get the plus version, then you'll have these polling breakout rooms and all of that. If you're not, you won't. But the integrated Jamboard is one that everybody will have, and the hand raising feature. And so since I am in Meet, I'm going to just real briefly go through some of those tools, not all of them, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. I want to spend most of my time in Google Classroom. Okay, so here we are in Google Meet, and yours may not look like this yet. There is an upgrade coming. If you don't have it yet, you will soon. But they're moving all of the tools down here, and they're separating the hang up button from the others. So hopefully that will help keep people from hanging up. The closed captioning is right here. If you turn that on, it will attempt to capture what you're saying, and each individual person can do that on their own. So I'm going to turn that off. You do have a hand raising feature. Students can raise their hand and let you know that they need something, and then you can address that. You do have the meeting details that you can look at. The people that are in the meeting, it shows too because it's me and then my presentation, not really anybody else here. You've got the chat feature, that's in the free version. Students can chat. You can turn that on or off. If you don't want your students to chat, you can adjust that. So all of those things are in the free version. And then also in the free version is the Jamboard. And I'm going to spend time in Jamboard a little later on. But you can, within a Google Meet, you can start a Jamboard, a new one, or you can choose one from Google Drive. And I'm actually not going to jump into that now because I don't want to steal my thunder from later on. I'm going to work in Jamboard later on, but that is an collaborative whiteboard that you can use in Google Meet, but you can also use it in classroom or face-to-face learning. It's available in all of those. So that is available in the free version. And now also in the free version are the meeting tools. You have quick access. When you turn this off, people who aren't invited have to ask to join. You can allow people to share their screen or not, and to send chat messages or not. And then you can go to all the host settings here, and you can turn things on and off as you go. Noise cancellation is only available on the premium versions. Allows you to block out external sound. Okay, so all of those things, and then the recording is it is right here. You can turn recording on or off. So all of those, but the things that are available on the upgraded versions, which help with our breakout rooms, polls, Q&A, and I don't have anybody to interact with, so none of those are really going to work during this demonstration, but those are all there, and they're all very simple to figure out, and they're only available on the teaching and learning or the plus versions. Okay, so I don't want to spend much time in Google Meet again because I want to get into the other tools that you'll be using more, but that is there. And I do have a couple of ideas here just for reference. If you want to take these with you, you can. If you are not fortunate enough to have the upgraded versions, here's a couple of ideas of how you can kind of make your own breakout rooms. These are Google slide templates with different doors where students can, you link you basically make different different Google Meets, and you link them to the different doors, and the students can choose the doors. And so those are clickable. Make a copy. If you want to make a copy of those and take them with you, you can. And then this is also kind of an instruction sheet on how to DIY Google Meet breakout rooms. That's an editable copy that you can make a copy and take it with you as well from the slide deck, if that's something that would be of use to you. And also, if you do ever have to teach remotely or have families that just can't make it in, some families just can't make it in during our working hours, Google Meet is a great way to connect with families also and communicate. And after last year, most families are a little more comfortable with that probably if you need to do meetings that way. And so just to remind that. Also, you can do Google Meet breakout rooms through Google Classroom. And this talks about how to facilitate that through the classroom assignments, making different assignments and assigning them only to the students you want in that group, and then putting the meeting link on there, as well as all of the assignment pieces you want in there, because students only the students that are on the assignment see that. And so that's a way to kind of keep that breakout, that different Google Meet separate for the students that are only in that group. And so all of those are there just kind of for future reference. But I do want to talk about Google Slides. It's my absolute favorite of the Google tools. Google Jamboard is right up there with it. And it's new last year, but Google Slides is still, it's the most versatile in my opinion. You can use it for so many different things. Interactive notes, icebreakers, drag and drop, like manipulative activities, choose your own adventure stories. You can set it up like an app by clicking buttons and making it go to different places. There's just so many different ways to use Google Slides. And the best thing about it is they are collaborative. And so you can set them up in student groups, have students work together on them. You can set it up so that you share and everybody has a slide that they're working on. You can just do so many things with them. And they're also great for using, like I'm using now, as a guide when you're presenting, whether you're face-to-face or online. I recommended for years, my teachers use them to guide their lessons every day, face-to-face, in person, and then embed those on their websites as well, so students would have access to those if they weren't in class. And that is a great way to do that, to kind of facilitate that learning outside of the classroom as well as inside of the classroom. Also, here are just some more ideas. It has lots of advantages over docs, the image editing in particular. You can add audio, you can add animations, you can publish it to the web and it will kind of play through. It has this Explorer tool for built-in research. And I just really encourage you, I still see some teachers who will use PowerPoints for their lessons. And, you know, PowerPoints are fancy and all of that, which is great. But if your students can't interact with them, if your students can't, if you can't collaborate on them, if you can't give it to your student and they take notes on it or something, then it just loses a lot of its power. And so I really recommend, go ahead and just jump with both feet into the Google Workspace environment. Don't keep one foot in the Microsoft environment if you are in a Google Workspace district, because you're really restricting your ability to enhance the collaboration in your classroom and with your students. Okay, so I am going to just do a little bit of demo with Google Slides. I want to make sure I leave you with these. We're really short on time, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of it, but I want to leave you with a few resources here. The Google Teacher Center. If you're new to slides, if this is a great place to get started, just a few real basic how-tos. If you're kind of already familiar with slides, but you want some great ideas to help enhance, this is a great resource. It's Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook Ultimate Google Slides resource. It has tons of really nice ideas. And the wonderful thing is they also come with templates and directions. And so I'm sure you'll find several wonderful things there that you can kind of take and make your own. And then I also have a collection of Google Slides here that I'm sharing with you, my own collection of Google Slide templates. A lot of those are borrowed from other people, so please make sure that if there's attribution on there that you do keep that attribution. And I'm going to go ahead and go into that and just kind of pull something up and just do a couple of really quick demo things. Okay, as soon as it loads. Okay, and one of my favorite places, and I have this linked in a resource later on, is Slides Mania. So you'll see a lot of these came from Slides Mania. And so if you go to Slides Mania and get a slide deck, you can get it in PowerPoint or Google Slides, but then you kind of take it and you make it your own. And you'll see here, like there's Alice Keeler has a jigsaw template. So there are lots and lots of them in here. There's an app. You can mock up an app. I did that for a summer workshop where kids had to develop their own app to solve a problem. And you can kind of link these things and make them kind of behave like a phone app. And you can set up the slide, like this one is set up in the shape of a phone. And so there are lots, there's the one with the breakout room doors. So there are lots and lots and lots of ideas. And this one is an art gallery idea. This one came from Slides Mania. But if you had your students doing, say, like a project on ancient Greek artifacts, and they all had to do a project on an artifact, each one could take one of these slides. They could put their artifact in there, and then they could link it to different information, or they could put the information on the wall or whatever. And so this is just kind of the base slide, and you could take these pictures out and they could put their own in there. And so you could assign this to your students. You could give each one of them a slide number, and then each kid could work with that one slide, for example. And you could assign it through Google Classroom, make them all editors on it, and then just tell them which slide is theirs, or make it a small group. There's just so much that you can do with it. And so in the essence of time, I'm going to leave you with all of those resources because, you know, depending on what grade level you were working in, you know, those, what subject, some of those may be useful to you, and others may be useful to other people, but there are lots of great resources there on that slide. Google Docs, of course, it's been around for a while, but I don't want to discount it as a collaborative document or collaborative item, because it is great for collaboration. You can use the templates anytime you go to the app like docs.google.com, slides.google.com, etc., you're going to see the templates. And there are lots of good templates there you can start with. There's also the Explore tool, built-in research tool, and that's also in slides. So I'll show you that in a minute. And then you can comment, at mention, assign tasks. There's a revision history, autocorrect, translating, voice typing. There are just lots of great tools. And then there's now a citation maker built in as well. Students do have to kind of do a little more work than like EasyBib. They have to actually like provide the author and the date and so forth, but it will actually make citations for them now too. And that's under the tools menu. Collaborating, of course, you have ways of collaborating. All of the Google tools work the same here. You click in the upper right hand corner, you share with people. You have different ways of making collaborators, and I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of all these details because we have such short time, and I'm assuming most of you kind of know the basics of this, but I do want to just demo just a little bit. And I'll go into Google Docs for just a moment and just show you just a couple of things. I'm going to go into my files real quickly. Okay. And I'm just opening up a random Google Doc just to show you a couple of things. Okay, first of all, under the tools menu, that's where the Explorer is. It's also right here. If you're not familiar with Explorer, I highly recommend it, especially for students. It's a great way to get your students to research within Google Docs or Google Slides as well, without going out and exploring the internet. So basically, for example, if you want to know about Mars rover, from right here, you can hit enter, you can search that. It'll either bring up web resources, it will bring up images, or it will search your drive. And so if you want something from the web, and oops, it's not clicking out of drive. Okay, so for example, if you go into this and you find, and these resources are a little more reliable than just going to Google. And so they're kind of curated for education. So if I'm a student and I go to that resource and I take a quote from that, then I need to cite it. Then all I have to do is cite that as a footnote, is click that button right there. It puts my one right there, and then it makes a footnote for it. And it saves the link for it as well. So that's a nice feature. Also, if I take an image and use that image in my presentation, and I want to insert that image in, then that image, you know, kids are forever just copying and pasting images and forgetting to do the citations and having to go find them. The images, the citation is attached to the image then in my document, and then for some reason it's not loading very well for me, but that image will be attached. Whenever you see the image, it will have a little icon, a little note under it where this image source came from. And so for students, we need to get that idea in their heads that they need to cite their sources. But especially for your younger kids, it can get very, very complex and complicated. So this is just a quick, easy way to get them in that mindset, but make it so that it's not so difficult and complex to do. Also under the tools are the voice typing and the translating. The voice typing is actually a really good tool for students who either have just atrocious spelling, or, and I'm not going to do it right now, but it works very well. They do need to learn just a few commands like period, question mark, new line, new paragraph, but very basic. And it does a really good job of translating what they're saying from speaking into text. And so those are all really good tools. And there are others as well that I'm sure you may know about already. And in the essence of time, I'm not going to be going into all of those. The Jamboard, I did want to talk about that more, and I'm going to demonstrate that the last couple of minutes that I have. I only have about 10 minutes left. I'm going to run over my hour. So it is a very simple collaborative whiteboard tool. It's free. It's integrated into all of your tools. It works on any device. It works best for smaller groups. You have actually a max of 25. If you get more than 20, sometimes it gets a little glitchy. Just know that. But use it for engaging students, getting their input. Use it for engaging critical thinking skills, collaborating, SEL check-ins, checking on them, seeing how they're doing. There's so many uses, and they're stored in your Google Drive. You can create them 3 different ways. You can go to the Jamboard web app and create them there. You can create them in your Google Drive, and you can create them in a Google Meet, which I've already showed you. But like in a Google Drive, you just go to New, and it's just down here. There's Jamboard. And so you can create it there. You can create and share it. Same thing. It shares exactly like other Google tools. And so there's a new Jamboard. And then the sharing settings, like I said, work just like anything else in Google Drive. You can share it with a whole group. You can, down here, you can make it so that everybody can edit it, just a few people can edit it, a group can edit it, any way you want to do that. And then a new tool that just came up recently is you can actually set an image as a background, which is a great tool. And so if you have a graphic organizer or something you want to set as the background, you want them to work on top of it, you can do that. It has all of these editing tools on the side, different pins, erasers, arrows, little sticky notes that you can put on it. It has a way to add images on top of it besides just the background. You've got shape tools, text boxes. You've got this little laser tool you can use. You can add additional slides to it here. You can add up to 20 slides if that hasn't changed. So again, you could have 1 slide per student. The difference between this and a Google slide deck is this works better for like a live synchronous session where you're working together and you want people to be live editing this together. And because I'm sitting here by my lonesome, I can't really demonstrate that for you again. But I do have, again, I have some resources for you to take with you. First of all, there's just a few screens here to show you those tools. This is the web app that I just showed you. This is how to add it to a Google Classroom. It works just like any other thing in the Google Classroom. You can add it to a classroom assignment, just like you can a doc or a slide or a sheet, which is wonderful. And so that means you can also assign, you can create a jam and assign it to just 3 kids or 5 kids. So you can facilitate collaborative groups that way. And only the kids that are in that group will see that Jamboard assignment. Anybody that's not in it doesn't even know that assignment exists. And so you can make multiple groups, assign them to just a few students, and they would all have a separate jam that they could all work in. So here are a few tips and tricks. Sometimes to make my background images, graphic organizers and things, I do them in Google Slides. And then I download it as a PNG or a JPEG. But there's also some other ideas here that you can use to make your images. And if you use the mobile app, it's a little different. It has some better features, actually. It has some AI tools involved in it. And there's a little video there from my iPad that you can watch that shows you some of those tools. It has handwriting recognition, shape recognition as well. Sharing, I've already showed you that. Also, if you're a math teacher, consider using something, if you use something like Equatio or GeoGebra or something like that, you can create your math images there and then bring them into your Jamboard. And so there's a tweet from Patrick McGrath, a really good guy to follow if you're a math teacher, on how to incorporate that. And then there is a collection here also of some Jamboards, again, a curated collection that I've sharing with you here, a folder full of jams that you can copy and use, and lots of good stuff in there that you can kind of take if they suit your needs. And you'll see lots of examples of them on how you can use them for different subject matters, different grade levels, and to facilitate either social emotional learning, to facilitate collaboration, critical thinking. There's algebra, there's little bitty kid stuff. There's just so many things you can do. The steamed one is like where they're taking a potato head and they're creating their future STEAM career, what they want. They're putting those things on the potato head. And there's just some really great ideas here. You know, labeling the cell, labeling places on a map, imaginative drawing tools, the base 10 blocks. There's just some great ideas, the spelling for kids using Scrabble blocks, a great way to use manipulatives and things. So there's lots and lots of ideas there. Any of those you should just be able to copy and then make it your own. And so you feel free to take any of those that you want and take them with you and use them. And the next thing is Classroom. Classroom is something I could do a 3-hour session on all by itself, because Classroom kind of pulls all of these things together. And so it is like the mission control for the teacher who is a Google Workspace teacher. And I only have a few minutes to go over it, but I just want to give you just a really quick drive through of Classroom. And again, I strongly encourage you, before day one, get as familiar with it as you can. Get a couple of colleagues to join your fake classes and kind of share things back and forth, and get used to how that works. There's lots of great tutorials out there, and I have a bunch of them at the end of this slide deck as a resource to you as well. But I want to just go in real quickly and just kind of show you all of these. There's actually lots and lots of tutorials in each one of these links. And so I want to go ahead and just go into Classroom and just show you real briefly, and then I'll reference you back to those before the end. But when you go to your Classroom home, this is what it's going to look like. And so your classes will be listed on the left. You do have some settings over here that help you control your comments and your notifications. So if you're getting too many notifications, check those out. There are ways to control that. And a lot of people don't know that, and they get really frustrated. But your classes are here, and then as a teacher, anything that you need to review, I don't really have any students, and there's none of you in real life here to interact with. But if I did have students and I had things that I needed to grade, they would be listed here. If I were a student and I had things I needed to do, they would be listed there. So students have a to-do list there. It does have a classroom calendar. If I had real classes and assignments, I could go to my calendar and they would be listed there as a student or a teacher. But I'm going to just go to my classes. And so all of your classes are listed here. And in each class, you've got a couple of little icons. One opens the folder, because Classroom syncs with Drive. And so in your Google Drive, as soon as you either join the first class or open the first or start the first class, you will have a folder in your Google Drive called Classroom. And in that Google Classroom folder is a folder for every class that you join or a class that you teach. And so all of your files as a teacher, every assignment you make, it starts a new folder for that assignment, and all of the students' work is in that folder. And so that's what allows you to do that feed forward approach. As soon as you make the assignment, as soon as the student opens it, you can monitor their progress there. And it's easy to get to in your Classroom or in your Drive, either one. You can go to it either way. And so that's an easy way to do it, and it's also in each class. On this page also, you can copy classes. You can archive them if you're done with them. You can move them if you want to move them around. But I'm just going to go ahead and go into one of the classes, and I'll show you just basically how it's set up. There are 4 different tabs. The Stream tab is meant for just communication. So use it just to share announcements and things, and you can set up what is posted here. The way that I like to set it up, if you go to your settings, right here where it says on the stream, I like to show nothing on my stream. I like to have the students can post and comment so they can communicate, but I like to have it so that nothing on the classwork is showing on the stream, so that the stream is just for communication, because otherwise it gets really busy. But that you can set up in your settings, which is there. Okay, so this I use just to make announcements. Anything that's going on, I want them to remember. The classwork page is where you actually set up your class, and you can set topics, and people use topics different ways. Some people do it by standard, some do it by unit, some people do it by week, some people do it, whatever. But you can create topics ahead of time, or by going here and creating topics, or you can create them as you create assignments and you need a place to put them. But topics are a great thing. Like this is a topic for the ocean. And then I can create another topic if I want to, and I can just put resources. And maybe I want to put my syllabus, my classroom, a textbook, whatever, and I can put things there. And then on this page also, I have a link to my class folder, my calendar, and then a Google Meet. If you have Google Meet, you can set up a Meet link in your classroom, and then every time your students have a meeting with you, they can just go to that same link, and it will only let them in if you've opened it. So that's a kind of a secure way to have a Google Meet also. And you can turn that on and off in settings as well. Anything you want to turn on or off for students, you do it in the settings. And then you have this people page, which will have all of your students in it. The teachers, you can add co-teachers to your class here. So you can have another teacher that helps you with the grading or posting of assignments and so forth. Normally, you'll have also an invite guardians button there. And if you invite guardians, they can get a weekly report of everything that goes on in your classroom. You should not invite parents to join your classroom, though. It's not intended for parents to join it. It is intended for parents to get a weekly notice, but you have to have their email address and invite them that way. You can invite students this way, but what I recommend is that you just give students the class code, and that's all students have to join. And there's also a class Meet link, or there's also a class link that you can give students to join, and you can get that right there, an invite link. You can copy that invite link and send it to students. But that's the easiest way to join. You can invite them the other way, though, if you want to. And so then when they accept the link, they'll automatically be joined. If you have work, when you click a student's name, it'll show you all of their work, the status on each assignment, and then anything they have, you can just click right into it. You can email them from there. You can also go through different categories of their work that way. So that's a great way to kind of filter down into just one student's work. You can also email your students from here. If you have guardians in here, you can do the same thing. You can email the guardians. You can mute someone who's making inappropriate comments or something like that if you need to. And then also Classroom has a great gradebook feature, and this is where the gradebook is. And you can set it up lots of different ways, and that's also in the class settings here. You can set up how your gradebook calculates, and so there are lots of stuff in that class settings that you want to check out. But as I'm almost out of time, I just want to refer to some things that are in the rest of the slide deck that I don't have time to go over. And I'm going to just zoom through them real quickly. These are quick links to kind of the main topic, and then I'll go to my closing. But there are lots of step-by-step tutorials on just the basics of how to create an assignment, how to add files to it, how to add files and links, how to facilitate group work. That's a video on that, how to monitor their progress, how to communicate with them, how to use the grading tool, lots of stuff there. The comment bank is a really great tool, how to add comments to the comment bank, find comments, and then the rubric feature. I've got some great information here. There's also some little practice things where you can actually go in and actually practice on creating rubrics. There's a template here for a rubric that you can take and copy and use it to make your own rubrics to add to your classroom. There's a little practice activity that you can kind of step through step by step on how to make a rubric. There is a lots of information on there also about originality reports and how to set up originality reports. There's some screenshots and things about what it looks like for you, what it would look like for your students. And so there's some student views, some teacher views. So if you are interested in, and this is that Guardian summary, this shows you exactly what a Guardian summary looks like and what kind of information it has. So that's there as well. So lots of great information, but I'm going to go ahead and go into my closing. I do have a screenshot here on the closing of some just great Googlers to follow. And I think I actually have 11 there. It's hard to narrow it down even to 11. But these are all on Twitter, and I highly encourage you as a new teacher to get on Twitter, skip the politics, but follow some great educators, and you will, even if you spend 10 minutes a day, you'll find some really good stuff on there and some people that can really help you out. And so here's some great people to start with. If you're a Chromebook teacher or a Workspace teacher, these are all really good resources. And so I encourage you to follow all those. And then for Google Slides templates, Slides Mania is a great place to go. She has some wonderful stuff there that are easy to just kind of take and make your own. And that's a wrap. I am out of time. talked fast and furious, and I hope that you find it valuable. And I hope as you journey into your future as a teacher, a Google Education teacher, that you reach out if you need me. I'm always available. My email or my Twitter handle is on the first slide, and I'm always happy to answer any questions I can and help you in any way that I can. And I also, at the beginning of every year, I put out a slide deck on updates for the year, because there'll be a lot of updates, and so I'll put that on my Twitter as well. So I appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck in your career as an educator. It's a worthwhile experience. It will be challenging, but I'm sure you will do well, and I'm sure you will change the world. Thank you.